This is a video to show you how to draw the Year 10 table. Have SketchUp open and make sure you select the template woodwork in millimeters. I always leave the man there standing first to give you an idea of scale. First, as you draw your first object, pick up the rectangle tool, draw close to a square. You're just going to type in 40, 40, and you'll see that happening down the bottom right hand corner in the dimensions box. Press enter and select the push pull tool. You're going to click once, drag up, doesn't matter where you finish as long as you draw or type in 440, press enter. That will go to 440 millimeters in height. I'm going to pick up that mouse pointer and just delete that guy. Now we have our first object drawn. Because we use component editing, we're going to get the mouse pointer and highlight the leg and select make component. So two finger click there and select make component. I'm going to call that the leg. Okay, now we're going to draw the side, or a rectangle in that general direction. I'm going to type in dimensions of 19, 300 and press enter. You'll see that the figures come down there. Just going to draw that again. 19, 300, press enter. And then push pull tool, and then extrude that up, click once. In the general direction, click down again and just type in 100 and press enter. Now that's drawn, we're going to highlight it, two finger click and select make component and call it the side. Draw another component now. This will be the bottom brace, and a rectangle in that general direction. I'm going to type in 19, 300. This time we're going to extrude or push pull and bring that up 40. Press enter. Go through the motions there of selecting, right finger click, two finger click, sorry, make component, and call that the bottom brace. Now we're going to draw the front brace. So again, a rectangle that is 19, 300. Press enter. The push pull tool, and extrude that up 30. Press enter. And make that a component. Call it front brace. Okay, now we're going to move into actually putting some of these components together. The front leg here, we're actually going to set an offset so we can put our piece in the middle. I'm using the tape measure tool here, and I can see that that is 40 millimeters. So to put our piece in the middle, our side piece is 19 millimeters. When we do 40 take away 19, we get 21. So we need to come in half of 21, so that's 10.5 from each side. So get your tape measure tool, measure in and type in 10.5 and press enter. Because use the tape measure tool here, that will give us a guide point where we can then come down and grab our side with the move tool. Select that point there that you want to marry up with the guide point. Simply click and drag it and release onto that guide point. You'll see now that that piece lies in the middle. When you hear that maths again, just rewind and listen to it again. But we basically needed 10.5 on each side because our piece was 19 mil in thickness. So 10.5 plus 19 plus another 10.5 on the inside equals our 40 millimeter leg. Now we're going to zoom in and do a similar thing here for the bottom brace. So again, tape measure tool. I'm going to measure up 100 millimeters from the bottom, and then across horizontally 10.5 millimeters, the same as before. Now we're going to get that bottom brace at that similar point there, that top right hand point, drag it to our guide point. And we have a leg and the side and the bottom brace together. I'm just going to move that front brace out of the way for a second here. What we're going to do is hold down shift and select all pieces, make group. So we're going to do that so that we can copy and paste the three components as a group. I'm going to paste that in there. You'll notice as we pull the move tool on top, there's a plus sign that appears. If you click on that plus sign, we're able to rotate that group of components. Orbit around now, and we're going to try and put that side there. We're going to move that in to that side. I'm going to move it across. So once that's married up, we have to move that across 10.5 millimeters. So we can just move it in that general direction and type in 10.5. We're going to repeat this process now so you can watch again. The move tool, pick up that plus sign on the top, spin that around so it's facing the right way. Pick up that corner there and marry it up to the side component there. Now with the move tool, just pick up that component, move it in the general direction, and we can type in 10.5 and enter. This here is the beauty of component editing in SketchUp, saving a lot of time and not having to draw all these components again. Repeat this process for the final side and legs. And move that 10.5 in that direction. Type 10.5 and enter. And we have our table. Now our table has a drawer at the front, so we need to get rid of this side piece here. I'm going to right two-finger click. I'm going to click on explode. What that does is ungroups basically. We're going to therefore now just delete, so select that top side there. We can delete that component just by pressing the delete button. That's therefore opened up some space here where we can put our front braces in. We need to rotate this around so it's orientating the right way. Zoom in here and rotate on its axis here that way. We're going to marry this front brace up with the back of the leg. That's why it's 30mm, to give us that rough 10mm at the front of the leg. We'll pick up that back corner and align it with the top of the leg there, but at the back. I'm going to copy and paste that front brace. What we're going to do first here is actually, it's exactly the same size as the draw runners. So we're going to put the draw runners in here. I'm just going to orientate that front brace around. We're going to put the draw runners exactly in line with the bottom of that side. Pick up the move tool here, grab that bottom right edge of the component or point of the component. You can see that we're marrying it up with the bottom of the side. I'm going to copy and paste that and do exactly the same thing over the other side, as you can see there. The reason we did the draw runners first, so we can easily align the front brace of the bottom of the draw part of the carcass to those runners. This will be a good thing to do for the practical project as well. Actually, we'll install the runners first. Copy and paste that front brace and align it with the front of the runner there and the leg, as you see here. As you can see, that's all on the same level there, so it's going to allow our draw to run nice and smoothly. And that's the main carcass built. We're now going to move on to the draw. I'm going to open some space up here so we can draw the draw. Start by drawing the side of the draw, 12,300. I'm going to push pull that up 60mm. Okay, now we're going to draw the groove in the bottom of this side for the draw base to slide into. Select the tape measure tool. I'm going to measure 5mm up from the bottom here, give us a guide point. Type 5 and press enter. I'm going to draw a rectangle that has a horizontal distance of 5 and a vertical distance of 4. Push pull tool once that rectangle is drawn, and push pull from front to back. That will expose our groove where our 4mm ply will fit into. Now we're going to draw the ply. Draw a square, enter dimensions of 286, 286, press enter. I'm going to push pull the ply at 4. I'm going to make that a component. Just highlight it, 2-finger click, make component. Type in draw base. This is where our base is going to fit in here. But we need to make a guide point on the inside of the groove here. So zoom in, type in 7. Okay, so we need a distance of 7mm here. So we're going to drag the plywood base, the top edge of that plywood base. I can zoom in a bit closer here. Might have to play around with this a little bit with orbiting around, etc. It's a little bit difficult to see. Now we can match that to that guide point that's 7mm in from the end. The reason we do that is because 7mm here, the plywood's actually 14mm shorter than the side. So we need to have 7mm on each end. You can see at this other end, naturally now there's a 7mm length. You can double check by just running the tape measure. This is going to give us enough room to put the sides in. What I've done here is I forgot to make that a component, but you can highlight that side. Make component, draw side. As long as you don't select that whole plywood base, you're allowed to do that. Now we're simply going to copy and paste the draw side, rotate it around so it's orientating the right way. What we're going to do here is drag the outside edge to the outside edge here. The reason we do that is because this is actually going to be a dovetail join in reality. We're not going to actually draw the dovetail join, but we're just going to drag that in so it overlaps. That's what a dovetail will do. Drawing a dovetail is a little bit above our required level for drawing here. Okay. Paste the other side and simply repeat this process the whole way around the draw. Okay, now we're going to draw the draw front. Need dimensions here of 300 from a 19. Now drag that up, the push-pull 60mm and press enter. Make this a component and call it the draw front. And we can simply drag that into position with the move tool from point to point. I'm going to highlight the whole draw here now, 2-finger click, and make that a group. That's so we can drag this whole component as a draw over to the table carcass. Okay, as we drag the draw over, we're going to marry those bottom 2 points there. What we want is, for rendering purposes, we want a millimetre gap at the top and a mil at the bottom. So what we're going to do here is the way we've drawn it, there's naturally a 2mm gap at the top. but we also need a gap at the side as well. What we're going to do here is pick up the scale tool. That brings all these dots up, and then we can basically pick up that middle tool there, drag it in a little bit. I'm going to type in 0.99 and press enter. That just brings the scale of the drawer just that little bit in. Basically gives it room to slide. Just double checking here with a tape measure. Yep, that's a 2mm gap. So we want to be able to pick up the move tool here. Just start dragging the drawer up in that general direction and type 1 and press enter. Remember, as long as you're dragging it in that general direction, doesn't matter how far you drag it, it will only drag as far as what you type. We typed 1 and pressed enter. Okay, now on the side here, we actually are going to end up with, I'll check with the tape measure here, we have a 3mm gap. So what we're going to do here is pick up the move tool, drag that drawer across 1.5, so 1.5 and press enter. So if that's confusing, just go back through the video and watch that again, but that's going to give us a gap the whole way around that drawer. Now we can drag that drawer out, and you can see how we can do things with animations and things a bit later on. Actually run that along and actually see all the componentry working, and that drawer can slide in and out. Okay, now we're going to move on to drawing the tabletop. I'm going to draw a square here with dimensions 380, 380, press enter. Push pull this to 17mm. Make that a component. For the top. Now what we're going to do here is create an edge around the top so we don't see end grain in the plywood. So create a rectangle, dimensions 20, 420. I'm going to extrude that up to 19mm. Now we effectively need to put a 45-degree angle on the end of this. So we're going to view tool palettes, large tool set, and you'll see the dialog box come up here on the left. So we need the protractor tool. I'm going to pick that up. There's 2 clicks here, one at the first point, one at where we start, and then a third one on the angle. We're going to type in 45. That gives us a guide point where we can put a pencil line tool in, erase the guide point, and use the push pull tool to then subtract that material. Explain that again on this end if that was a bit quick. I'm going to pick up that protractor tool. I'm going to click on the first point, click again, and then click where we want the angle and type 45. There's 3 quick clicks there. Gives us the guideline. We then need to put the pencil line on and push pull to extrude. We have a mitre on each end. I'm going to highlight that component. So make it a component. Call it the top edging. Need to drag that edging from the inside point of that angle to the edge of the top. We can copy and paste that component 4 times and go around the whole top just by rotating and matching point to point on each corner of the tabletop. Now you can see that edging has gone the whole way around the tabletop, and because it's a miter, that means we don't see any end grain from the plywood or the edging. I'm going to make that whole tabletop a group now, so we can drag the whole thing over to the table and finish it off. The whole distance here is 380. Just double checking there. What we're going to do is grab the bottom of the table here, the inside point of that miter joint. I'm going to drag that, we're looking from underneath, so we can drag this. Again, sometimes it's a little bit awkward with orbiting around, just get it where it's comfortable. I'll grab that outside edge here, might be a little bit easier. There we go, finally got it. And marry that outside edge of the leg there, the outside of the tabletop, as that's a guide point. Navigate to the top, we're going to drag this over 20 millimeters to the left, and then 20 millimeters forward. And that will mean that tabletop now sits evenly in the middle of the table. I'm going to bring that down 2 millimeters, as the ply in the middle was 17 and our edging is 19, so that will sit nice and flush on top now. And that's the Year 10 table drawn. For instructions on importing your own textures for timber, in this job we use hoop pine, and also in how to render and animate, you'll need to follow the video that I made for the Year 11 bow front cabinet, and then simply apply the same procedures and processes to this drawing.